Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us for Mama's Kitchen's first State of the Kitchen address. I'm Jenna Navati. I'm the Director of Development here for Mama's Kitchen. We are so thankful to have everyone joining us and participating and supporting us at this time. We have about 165 people that are joining us on this call today. And I will be introducing you with the format of today's call. We will begin with 30 minutes of Alberto Cortez will be introducing the current state of the kitchen as it is right now. He'll be going over the changes we've experienced in response to the COVID-19 crisis, along with our recent successes, and of course the challenges and what we see ahead of us in the future. After that first 30 minutes, I will come back on the screen and we will at that point take some questions from you. You can go ahead at that time, after that first 30 minutes, you will be able to comment in the chat, the comment form in the channel that you are viewing, and we will address as many questions as we can at that time. If we are not able to address your question, please feel free to email me or Mark Maddox, our Director of Volunteer Engagement. Our email addresses will come on the screen at the end of the program, and we will be reaching out to you to answer your questions. Well, thank you again for joining us, and I'm now going to hand it over to Alberto Cortez, our CEO. Thank you.
Jenna, thank you so much. I'm grateful that you're all joining us. Thank you for your commitment to our mission, for your interest in the work that Mama's Kitchen does. We are what we are because of your engagement, and for that we're grateful. As Jenna indicated, I'll be sharing you a little bit about what's going on at Mama's Kitchen, both within the context of COVID and just generally. It was in September of 1990 that Mama's Kitchen was formed in response to a public health crisis that was affecting San Diego, namely the AIDS pandemic. And so it is somewhat fortuitous that on this, our 30th anniversary, we are facing yet another pandemic, public health crisis as a result of COVID-19. And we are as ready and able to respond to that as we were back in the 90s and have for many years responded to the AIDS epidemic. I want to share with you a little bit about what's happened in recent years with Mama's Kitchen and how our response to date to COVID has been influenced by our most recent transformational years. In the last close to 3 years, we have intentionally looked to improve the quality of our services while also increasing our capacity to serve more people, and also look to provide services to people with other illnesses. We've gone from comfort food to medically tailored meals, to functioning within the paradigm of food as medicine. We've dramatically improved the quality of our food, where much of what we provide are meals made from scratch that are medically tailored, as I said, and very specific to the needs of the people that we serve. We've increased the number of people that we've served and the conditions that we respond to, where in addition to our long-standing commitment to people with cancer and people with HIV, we're also have been taking care of in more recent years to people who have congestive heart failure and most recently type 2 diabetes. Over this period of time, the number of people that have required our services has increased steadily. There's a chart we have that shows how we have performed in productivity over the last 18 months that you have now before in front of you. Thank you, Sylvia. As you can see, in the last 18 months, we have had a steady increase, and then you can see the dramatic change since March of this year, where we were serving just over 430 people. where last Friday we sent out food to close to 710 people, which represents a close to 65% increase in the number of people receiving our services. Each one of those people represents 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So that's literally tens of thousands of meals that are going out. And I am grateful for the organization, for the staff, for the amazing volunteers that have made this happen. And I will say that this increase has happened within the context of an environment where we've had to actually reduce the number of people in our facility for the sake of doing our work in the safest of environments. So we have gone to serve more people with less human resources and still be responsive. We've have a history of never starting a waiting list and still do not have one, and anticipate having that be how we guide our capacity to respond in the future. In other words, that we will continue to address people with their needs as they come in real time. We are doing this, as I said before, in a safe work environment where people are functioning with covered faces, social distances, environments where we're looking to prepare hundreds of meals. We're grateful for the volunteers that are able to be here. And we're also grateful for those volunteers that have stepped up to the plate for the sake of delivering the food, because we have gone from what was about 35, 36 routes to 61 routes, so that all that food can be distributed. And the community has responded in an amazing way to our increased need for drivers. Again, another example of how we truly are a community-driven organization, which is how our mission starts defining us, and that the community steps forth at a time where there is we face so many challenges with such a high unemployment rate, where we're dealing with folks that are needing to work from home, schools that are closed, nursing homes that are such high risk for COVID. We have so many multiple issues as a society that we face, and yet we are absolutely inspired and moved by how our community yet again comes forth and supports our mission to make the lives of those folks that we serve safer. So it is, again, really affirms the value of our mission. And I would argue that now the presence of this public health issue strengthens our purpose in our community. We have had to make changes like everyone else. In addition to having to work with a leaner staff, one of our very important programs, our pantry, Mama's Pantry, has been shut down since the early part of this pandemic for the sake of safety. And we have helped transition as many of those people into our home delivered meal program. Um, the future of the pantry is being created. We anticipate that the pantry at some point in the future will reopen. We anticipate that it will reopen in a site not here at the kitchen, but probably in a location where our aim is to provide improved access to transportation, which has been an issue of the pantry since it's been here. So we're taking this opportunity to identify a location where people can more readily get to the pantry. I don't know when that will happen. I do know that it will not reopen here on this site at this point. The other component of the pantry's move is inspired by the fact that because we need to have a safer work environment, We need the space that we have to create separate workstations for staff and volunteers that are here, um, because we anticipate that into the foreseeable future, the need to create a safe work environment will continue to be paramount in our capacity to do our mission. Before COVID, we knew and were planning for intentionally for growth. We have a sense of how San Diego County is growing, how the population of San Diego County is aging, and we anticipate over the coming years that the need for our services will continue to increase. And so we continue to plan for a future of increased needs for our services. Our expedient manner in which we've been able to respond to the dramatic increase in services has provided us an affirmation of sorts that we are ready to continue to serve more people in San Diego County. That, of course, can be challenging because we are also looking at an economy that's uncertain, and we are unclear as to how that may impact our capacity to move forward. But I will say, and I can speak on behalf of our board of directors and our staff, that we are committed to the well-being of everyone, and we're committed to the mission of providing nutritious services to people who qualify for our services. I don't anticipate any changes around that. We're going to be going into our new fiscal year as of July 1st with a strong staff, a strong financial standing, and a strong set of skills and volunteers that will allow us to move forward in growth. What we need from you, the community, is your continued support in the work that we're doing, be it as a volunteer, be it as a contributor, be it as a person that can create awareness of who we are as an organization in the broader community. We're grateful that in the last 2 or 3 months, there has been greater exposure of who we are, and the community has responded in kind. It is that kind of response that will be absolutely critical for Mama's Kitchen to continue to provide and respond to the needs of our community. I am amazed at the folks that come in every day. We have a series of volunteers that have done an extraordinary job at stepping up to the plate to cover for their peers who have decided to take a pause for the sake of their own well-being, for the sake of their own vulnerability to COVID, so that they can come back in the future as healthy volunteers and continue to serve the kitchen. So the folks that have stepped up to the plate have done an extraordinary job. I want to also take this opportunity to acknowledge my coworkers who have done an absolutely amazing job in having us pivot in a very smooth way to take care of more people than we ever have in the history of the organization. Our amazing executive chef, Jason Martin, who has in the last 2 years that he's been here, been behind much of the transformation that we've gone through. Christine Stensberg, our Director of Nutrition Services, who makes sure that every referral that comes in, whether it's a day where 3 referrals come in or a day where 30 referrals come in, steps in to make sure that she and her coworkers are able to respond to all of these needs and put these folks in service immediately. To Kelly Sherlock, our Director of Administration and Finance, who keeps us in line with how we're doing financially, how we bill, how we keep on policy, and to our Director of Volunteer Engagement, Mark Maddox, who's done an amazing job in training just in the last 3 months, successfully training and integrating well over 400 volunteers, most of which are new drivers. That you might compare with the fact that over the course of a year, that's about the number of people that we have traditionally bought in as volunteers. And last but not least, Jenna Novotny, our director of development, who has done an amazing job in her very short tenure here in creating opportunities for people to engage and support our mission, including the establishment of an emergency response fund that we've been very successful in getting community support with. It's the work of many, and I say this often, and it gets affirmed every day that what we're able to do is because of the work of many. And I would be remiss in not acknowledging our board of directors, because it has been the very decisions that have been made by the board very thoughtfully and very thoroughly and informed in an informed way that have brought us to a place where we not only are taking care of more people than ever, but we can do it in a thoughtful, methodical, responsive way, not in a reactionary way. So I am grateful for the people that I work with in this environment to be able to um, do what we do. The future looks unclear. I don't have a crystal ball from which to draw any more clarity. And that is the reality within which we are looking to move forward. And within that uncertainty of the future, what we are clear about is about who we are, what our mission is, what we're capable of doing, and how we are committed to moving forward in providing services in our community without missing a beat. And so I want to thank everybody for, again, their commitment. I know that we've gotten a lot of questions, and so I'm going to stop a little earlier than usual to give an opportunity for us to look at what some of those questions are. Jenna, are you
Yeah.
okay taking a lead on asking the questions that are coming up?
Yes, and actually, that's a perfect note because as you were just mentioning, with not having our crystal ball, as we all wish we did have at this time, and the fact that we are at record high client numbers, do we foresee that those clients may stay on for a longer period of time and not necessarily just come off of our services once the economy starts to open?
Yes. So that's a really wonderful question. There's two things that we're looking at that we're trying to project. How much the increased level of services from Mama's Kitchen will be maintained, and whether we might foresee a continued increase in the need for our services, or whether that will plateau, or whether that will decline. We are planning on something look like a plateau and have the capacity of serving more people. As far as volunteers and the folks that we need to make this happen, I am guided mostly by what public health officials are recommending around providing safe environments. And that will, in great part, define how we move forward and how much we open up our facility for greater engagement of our volunteers. At this stage of the game, what our primary goal is to serve everybody who needs us with as few people as possible in our building, because it is imperative that we maintain a safe work environment for everyone who is committing to come in and do the work that we need to do to serve the people that we serve. The place of need that we have for volunteers is in drivers. As I mentioned earlier, we have 61 routes right now, which is a dramatic increase from what we've normally seen. And so the need for drivers is as critical as ever. And what that looks like once things start settling down is also not clear to us, and how long that will take. I'm banking on the following things. The economy will the unemployment rates are not likely to dramatically decrease, unfortunately. I think there will be more people with more time in their hands for a longer period of time than we may think. I think as a result of this experience we're having, more people will be working from home. And that is one of the things that may allow people also to consider the possibility of driving for us or volunteering for us. And the third factor is the fact that this period of time has increased the exposure of Mama's Kitchen to the community. More people know about us, and more people will continue to know about us. And we're looking as that as an opportunity also to increase the volunteer human resources that we can garner to support not only from a driving perspective, but all other parts of volunteer needs in the organization. That also reminds me that one of the challenges that we have is the fact that our key event, fundraising event, Mama's Day, obviously was not able to happen this year. It would have happened earlier this month. And at this point, we envision Mama's Day 2021 to be possibly not likely to be what we're used to seeing. What we're hoping to do is something that would remind us that we have that event. We're not clear of what that will look like. It'll depend on where we are at that time. In the fall of this year, we have our traditional pie sale, which will also be a variation of what we're used to. We are planning on having an event, but we're looking to do something very different. We have a history of support from the food service industry in this town, restaurants, caterers, and that is an industry that has been absolutely decimated in the last 3 months. And so we're looking at pie and seeing how we might be able to do something that will help support organizations in the food service industry that have been supporters of ours for many years in a way that will help them. And that can be mutually beneficial and provide us an opportunity to say thank you to those folks in that industry in a very concrete way that will be meaningful for them. Jenna, is there any other questions that we can address?
And folks, thanks for bearing with us. I know we're having some audio issues with my audio, and we're working on that. For those volunteers that have been sheltering in place, could you tell us a little bit more about what a no contact delivery is that we are currently operating under?
Say that last part again. I'm sorry, Jenna.
Can you go into more detail about a no contact delivery?
Yes, I can. Yes. So right now, the way that deliveries are done are what we call no contact deliveries, where we're looking for a way of making sure that we're just providing food to the client and that our drivers are safe so that both sides are safe. And we call them no contact deliveries, where we are calling the client before we deliver the food and let them know that we're going to be dropping the food at their door, and we step back 6 feet or more to witness that they do open the door and bring in the food, because food safety is an issue. And so that allows us to take food to the people that need it without there being a direct contact with the volunteer, which is absolutely critical to both parties, actually.
Well, we'll try my audio again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's just that it is a little muffled.
We're working on getting a new computer. So with pantry being closed and our current the pantry clients having the opportunity to enroll in our home delivered meal program, what will be the future of that moving forward? Will our clients get to remain on the home delivered meal program? And obviously, once the pantry reopens, it might be a different story. Can you speak a little bit about how the enrollment of our pantry
Yes. It's it's something that we're looking to make sure that nobody goes without, that anybody goes without. We want to, we have been able to offer the alternative of our pantry clients during the closure of the pantry to utilize our home delivered meal program. Uh, that is in great part doable because the county has provided funding to pay for those meals for those people. And we anticipate that uh, we will continue to do that. We're currently going back to the county for additional funding for that. Um, until we know for sure. Um, I anticipate that they will respond in a positive way, but our goal internally is to take care of these people as long as the pantry is closed, and that once the pantry opens up again under what will be a new system, a system that will probably need to be more closely coordinated. We will look to take care of folks that would otherwise be using the pantry.
Great. Hopefully we have some better audio here. So
Much better.
You mentioned previously that we're working on, can you hear me?
Yes, it's good.
You mentioned previously about how individuals can support through fundraising, and that we have our emergency response fund right now that has been initiated. And I know we've had some questions from some supporters that are still sheltering in place and can't necessarily come in to volunteer right now. And how can you explain how maybe they can support, if not through a large contribution themselves, perhaps through some peer-to-peer fundraising and just sharing general awareness of Mama's Kitchen?
Yes, thank you, Jenna. And I'm actually going to sort of throw it back to you because as the director of development,
Sure.
you'll more eloquently speak to this. But there are ways, and historically, and these times are no different. They may be more urgent, but they're no different otherwise. It's we invite folks to consider, excuse me, who in their circle they can find to come and support us, to introduce Mama's Kitchen. And as Jenna mentioned, peer-to-peer giving is a really easy mechanism in which you can connect folks to the kitchen virtually, so you don't have to be in person, and you can give a mechanism by which they can support the organization. But Jenna can speak to it so much more eloquently than I can. Jenna, please.
Right.
Could you hear me?
There we go. You can learn more about what our peer-to-peer fundraising is by visiting our emergency response fund website, which you can find directly on our website, mamaskitchen.org. And what that is a way to start your own fundraiser on behalf of Mama's Kitchen and share your personal passion for the organization through your social media channels. It could be through your email, and just express to others the work that we're doing. And it's a way to help get your community involved in supporting Mama's Kitchen. Other ways that you can also support, we have our bread and butter club. And what's really wonderful about that is by contributing a regularly monthly gift, you're making a contribution to the long-term sustainability of Mama's Kitchen. So, it may not be a larger amount each month. Over time, it adds up. It's support that we know that we can rely on and helps us build our long-term planning for the future. Other ways that you can consider supporting Mama's Kitchen, again, is by spreading the word. If you know companies that are interested in supporting nonprofits right now, we've had an uptick in companies that are adopting routes. Mark Maddox can also provide you more information if you'd like to learn more about adopting a route. I know we just yesterday had Alsco, a local company, adopt 2 routes. We've also had the Padres step up, and their community engagement group has started adopting routes, and other companies as well. It's a great way to support and give back and get your employees involved as well. So let's see. I think in addition to talking about pie, do you want to talk a little bit, Alberto, about how we might be celebrating things like Tree of Life in the future, and that people can look forward to hearing more about ways to engage virtually with our events?
As many of you may have maybe already experiencing, this form of communication is what's becoming the norm. And I suspect we all are probably suspecting that we will be using this method of coming together on a more regular basis. It will become closer to a norm for us. So I envision that events like our Tree of Life event will happen in creative virtual ways where we still have the opportunity of having our tradition of, for example, acknowledging World AIDS Day, its impact on our community, remembering those that have passed, those that are living with HIV, and of celebrating those efforts that have responded in a kind, loving, and effective way to this epidemic. And to also acknowledge on that day how what we learned in taking care of people with HIV has provided the foundation for us to now to be able to take care of literally hundreds of other people with diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer in very effective ways. So that is what I envision we will be doing more of. I know that we, as time goes by, will be doing this on a more frequent basis, becoming really efficient in doing it, and to effectively communicate with you, our community. And what's interesting is that we have done these update events in person here in our conference room. Many of you that are here on this virtual call have attended those, and I must say that the attendance here virtually is significantly higher. So there are some benefits to using these means to provide information and keep our community updated. I want to also acknowledge there are lots of people on the call who are longtime volunteers that haven't been here, that we're missing very much, that I just want to send a blessing to, and know that we miss you, and we're looking forward to your return at some point, hopefully sooner than later.
Absolutely. Let's see. And folks, do remember that you can comment if you have additional questions that we can address on the call. Let's see here. So obviously with the numbers increasing, and I know people can see some cans and different goods behind me. Alberto, could you speak to one of the emergency response efforts that we did about a month ago, I think it was now, where we provided a 1-week supply of emergency shelf staple food to our clients, and what that entails?
Yes. So one of our early efforts at the earlier part of COVID response was to provide shelf-stable food to all of our clients, a week's worth delivered in their homes, out of concern and a desire to make sure that should we need to or not be able to provide food because of a more stringent shutdown, that people would have at least a week's worth of food. We literally sent out about 600, I think it was like 625, 635 bags to clients throughout San Diego County, so that they would have that as a cushion, as a backup, should there be an interruption in the delivery of food, which gratefully so has not been the case. And at this point, we're fairly confident that we should be able to continue to do what we do without any interruption in service.
And we do have a question here. Are we still serving dependent children as well during this time?
Absolutely. We have been committed to taking care of children that live under the same roof with our clients since 1998, I believe. And that commitment is as strong as ever. Anyone who comes into our services who has minor children living in the house with them will also receive all the meals as well as the client that we're serving.
And a question as far as obviously with the grocery stores being heavily impacted by demand, did we at Mama's Kitchen see any effects from a lack of availability of food? Was it harder to source products for our meals?
So thus far, we have been very lucky that food sourcing has not been a problem. Um, our executive chef, who's very familiar with the distribution chains, is confident that for the moment, we don't anticipate any problems. We have stronger relationships with our primary vendor, and our experience has thus been quite well, with a glitch maybe here and there, but nothing that anybody who's not behind the curtain would notice. So, and at this point, it seems it's pretty stable, and I'm grateful for that. And a lot of that also has to do with the strong relationship that we have with the vendors that have been providing services to us for a long time.
Absolutely. And so I know for some of our long-term volunteers and supporters, they know about the fact that, we have registered dietitians on staff that are, constantly in contact with our clients. Now during this time where there's heightened fear and concern from our clients about going outside, can you speak to how our work with our registered dietitians and nutritionists and our program staff are supporting our clients that have additional fear and concerns right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is a wonderful question because it is our clients' real concern about their risk for illness that makes our service so critical. And so our registered dietitians have been, Stephanie and Lexi have done an amazing job responding to concerns. Our team of folks in client services, which include Vicky and Gus and JD and Christine and Chris, have all done an amazing job responding to the calls, calling our clients, keeping them apprised of how we're continuing to take care of them. And a lot of our nutrition education, which used to at times occur in person, now is all happening via phone. So, which is a critical component of our interventions, is to educate our clients about how they can eventually take care of themselves. And so we continue to be responsive and attentive to the needs of our clients because we do understand how critical it is for them to stay sheltered in place so that they can avoid infection with COVID-19.
Wonderful. And we had a great question about how we work. Do we partner and work with other organizations? And so, Alberto, perhaps you could talk about our work with the Food is Medicine Coalition, and then how we partner locally with other organizations here, especially when in the beginning, when we received a lot of phone calls for services for individuals who may not have been critically ill.
Yes. We work really closely with literally hundreds of other health service providers, nonprofit organizations, community health centers, because those are the organizations that provide the referrals into our home delivered meal program. And they are the ones that need to know who we are and what we do in order for our clients to get connected into our services. And we're grateful for them. We're grateful for the county's response in support of our added services, especially around people with HIV who are also at higher risk. And so I, again, feel really affirmed of the relationships that we've built over the years with these amazing organizations that are also doing critical work in response to this epidemic while addressing the ongoing issues that we just have from being human beings, healthcare delivery, mental health services, transportation services, all these other needs that our clients are still so continue to be in critical need of. So.
Great. And we do have one question here, kind of goes back to any effect in our sourcing. Has Mama's Kitchen experienced price increases from our suppliers for the food items that we need? Obviously, with the understanding that because we provide medically tailored meals, we can't just swap out, ingredients or items for anything that's available.
So at this point, we haven't. I think one of the benefits that we have is because we buy purchase large quantities of food. We do benefit from economies of scale, and we are also then take on the identifier of an important vendor for our suppliers. And so at this point, we've not experienced any significant increase or change in food costs. That's not to say that somewhere down the road, depending on how the food distribution system can be altered or go into crisis, we could see that happen. At this point, that's not been the case.
Great. So obviously with hitting more than 700 clients and expecting the number to continue to grow, do we see a cap in the future, knowing that, our building is only as big as it is and the kitchen is as big as it is?
It's a great question. And my job is to make sure that we know what the cap is before we get there. And so I can assure you that in the short term, we are able to respond to continued growth. In the interim, we are looking to see what are the things that we need to do to be ready for the increased demand for our services in 3 years, in 5 years, 10 years down the road, so that the modifications that we're doing to our building, the explorations on capital campaigns that we may be doing in the future for additional facilities, our modeling of what the organization needs from staff structure to respond to needs in the future are the things that we're currently working on, so that we have the answer to responding to need in the future. In the interim, we have planned well enough in the last 3 to 5 years to be able to, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, to continue to respond to need without needing to start a waiting list. In my mind, that is a greater measure of success, never having to put somebody on a list because we don't have the capacity to respond to them at the time they need us.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a majority of the questions that we have received. So we'll prepare to wrap up. And Alberto, I would just ask if you have any final comments or wishes or notes that you want to leave everyone off with for what's to come and when we hopefully get to see everyone again, and what the future holds.
Yes. We're concluding this conversation in this format, but the conversation can continue. As many of you know, I am accessible. Jenna is, our staff is. If you have any questions, don't hesitate in contacting us. If you have any ideas, don't hesitate in contacting us. If you have any financial support, don't hesitate in contacting us. I want to express my gratitude for your presence, again, your involvement in the organization. It's because of your commitment to our mission that we're able to do what we do. And it's that commitment that makes me feel absolutely confident that we will continue to be responsive in a thoughtful, comprehensive, meaningful, and impactful way to people that would otherwise be vulnerable to malnutrition. And so thank you for the inspiration to have that level of confidence. It's from you that comes. And if there is anything that we can do to help any of you that might be in a challenging situation, oftentimes these kinds of exceptional situations may put many of us that may be able to take care of each other in a more vulnerable place. We're happy to find resources and help in any way possible. So give us a call, give me personally a call, whatever it takes. Again, I want to express my gratitude for your involvement, your patience as we go through this and redefine who we are as an organization within the context of COVID-19 and outside of the context of COVID-19. It will impact who we are, but it won't diminish who we are. And so thank you. Thank you, Jenna, for coordinating this, for Sylvia, who's behind the curtain making this happen, and for all of you for being here.
I'm trying to get my connection back.
I hear.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We, as Alberto said, thank you for bearing with us sometimes as we all get used to more digital formats. We're incredibly grateful for you. As Alberto said, please don't hesitate to reach out to questions. We will be emailing out. This actual recorded video as well, and we look forward to keeping in touch with you moving forward. So thank you, everyone. Stay well.